We're joined by energy generation expert Matshela Koko. A very good evening, sir, and thank you for taking the time to speak to us. Now, load shedding set to be ramped up to stage 6 again tomorrow. This with CEO Andre de Ruyter placing the blame squarely on protesting workers at that utility, an assertion that you don't quite agree with.
Exactly. So with or without the labor unrest, which are very unfortunate and they come at the wrong time, we will still be at a minimum of stage 3 to 4 load shedding. Eskom is battling to meet, in the last 6 months to 12 months, Eskom has not been able to meet the demand comfortably of 29,000 megawatts. What we are seeing now is a systems demand of 34,000 and between 33,000 megawatts and 34,000 megawatts. There is no way, whether there's a strike or not, Eskom will be able to meet that. We will still be in stage 3 as a minimum of load shedding without labor unrest.
Now, so let's talk about what some analysts are saying, which is that the maintenance of the aged infrastructure at Eskom is not going as quite envisaged. They're reporting that there's been more frequent breakdowns despite the undertaking of maintenance. Having once been in the CEO position yourself, what do you think the solution to this would be?
Well, we have a much deeper problem. Sunday Times reports today that 70% of the units that have come out of maintenance are broken after 9 months. If you look in the last if you look in a period of 10 years, Eskom is effectively executing more maintenance than it plans. The maintenance is measured with what we call the planned capability loss factor. The target is 10% and Eskom is performing at 10.5%, which means that Eskom is exceeding its maintenance target. It's doing more maintenance than it plans. It means Eskom has got no money problem to do maintenance. It's got a lot of money to do its maintenance. It means that Eskom has no capacity problem to do the maintenance. The problem is how the maintenance are scoped and executed. I just think that Eskom does not have the organizational discipline to execute the 10% of maintenance, which is effectively 5,000 megawatts on average a year. What Eskom is doing is actually bad. It takes units that are running, put them into the garage to do maintenance. When those units come back out of maintenance, they are not running, and we are subjected to stage 4 load shedding, stage 5 load shedding. And then they tell us that the problem is Mr. Mantashe, because Mr. Mantashe is not building more capacity. The solution to this, Yana, is that we should not accept any longer the excuses that the Eskom leadership are telling us. They have enough money to do the maintenance. They have enough capacity to do the maintenance. They have to do the right maintenance so that we can get the right capacity to stop burning diesel and to meet the demand of 34,000 megawatts.
Mr. Koko, now, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research has confirmed that under de Ruyter's leadership, there's been more load shedding than any other time. Now, this has paved way for some to believe that he is intentionally sabotaging the power utility with the aim of privatization to have power plants done away with and independent power producers being brought in. Do you think there's any truth to these?
I have been in Eskom for over 25 years. I do not believe that there is an executive of Eskom who will deliberately subject the country into load shedding. I used to tell my former colleagues that load shedding is like death. You don't want to experience it. You don't go into it willingly. I don't believe that de Ruyter is deliberately putting Eskom into load shedding. I just don't think he's the right person for the job. He is just not competent for the job. But it's much more than that. If you look at the board of Eskom and combine it with the executive of Eskom, in Mr. de Ruyter's own version, when he addressed the conference of Ahmed Kartrada at Wits in 2021, he says, in his own words, we do not have an engineer in our board. We do not have an accountant in our board. I go further and say they do not have a generation engineer in their exco. So you have a very incompetent, you have very inexperienced leadership at Eskom that may be competent in other areas like medical science, other competent in other areas. But when it comes to the area that is really giving Eskom problems, generation, they've got zero experience. So I think it's more experience than deliberate load shedding.
And you've also been quoted saying that he's in that position, director, that is, he's remained in that position basically because of white privilege. Can you just take us through your belief in this?
You see, South Africa is extremely intolerant to black people when they don't perform. It's extremely intolerant to women in particular when they don't perform. There is no doubt that since director came into Eskom, he knew what he came to Eskom for. He asked us as a nation to give him 18 months. 18 months has passed. We're now into the third year. He has not performed, and nobody is holding him to account. No one is holding any leadership of Eskom to account. We are told all the excuses, and when all excuses fail, we are told there is sabotage, but the police are not arresting anybody for sabotage. And the only reason why no one is being held accountable at Eskom is because Eskom is led by white, and it's white privilege. There's no doubt about it.
So in the interest of time...
I mean, I find it very ridiculous that Mr. Mantashe is the one that has been blamed for the blackout as if he's running Eskom. He's not running Eskom. Eskom has got enough capacity. Eskom has got enough money. Eskom has got all it needs to give the country energy availability of 70% that will stop load shedding. It's not Mr. Mantashe.
Now, so let me jump in there in the interest of time and very briefly, what are the solutions then that we can look to, particularly in the short term?
In the short term, in the short term, we have to fix generation plants. We need a leader or leaders in the board of Eskom who are engineers. Who, I don't understand how, when EXCO of Eskom and the board of Eskom meet together, what do they talk about generation? Because none of them understand generation. None of them, including their minister. So what do they talk about? First, in the short term, they need to get people at the board of Eskom, people at EXCO of Eskom who understand generation, who will be able to converse competently about the Eskom's problem without putting blame on people that have left Eskom 5 years ago.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your time. That was energy generation expert Matshela Koko.